Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the next session. My name is Matt Miller. I'm on the program committee. And hello to everyone online as well. I think I forgot to mention you on the last session, but I shan't do it twice. It's my pleasure to introduce to the stage Pedro Martinez. He's from Thales, and he's here to talk about the whys and hows of passkeys for financial institutions. Take it away, Pedro.
Thank you, Mike. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining. Actually, I don't know, for those of you who were here on the previous session with Rolf, I think it's great that this session is coming very next to his because we are talking about common things. I would prefer that my session comes first because actually I will be finishing with something that would be a good segue to his session, and also because his presentations are always very good, so he's a tough act to follow. But anyway, you will see that there are some commonalities if you were here. So we're going to talk about passkeys for financial institutions, the why and the hows. And in order to get into it, we are going to first see what is the state of things before passkeys for financial institutions implementing a strong authentication for their solutions. So, well, I mean, multi-factor authentication, we all know, so a combination of at least 2 factors out of 3. How is this being implemented in practice in retail banking services? Because we will be talking specifically about retail banking services, focus on that. So the application of MFA is required for a certain number of actions in retail banking. In login, depending on the circumstances, may or may not be needed, but certainly it is very much needed when it comes to more sensible operations such as transfers, payments, so actual transactions implying money, as well as whenever the user is going into any kind of modification of the profile data that is very sensible and could lead potentially to fraud. So whenever these actions are in place, there is an implicit need for a strong and reliable authentication. What are the channels? The main channels, obviously there are other channels potentially, but let's focus only on these ones that have even been branded over time. We refer to e-banking when we are doing our banking transactions remotely from a PC and a browser, and we talk about mobile banking whenever we are doing it through a mobile device. And typically, in the case of mobile, for most banks, as of today, the state of art of things is that this is done essentially through an app. Of course, it can be done through a browser, but mostly banks, they have their own apps, and that's what they favor. Okay, so taking that into consideration, just to put things in place, how is strong authentication used in the best case scenario that can be reached with technology before passkeys? Well, the strong authentication, it takes place, say, sequentially with a first factor that is either the factor of knowledge or it is the factor of biometrics, and that takes place locally between the user and his device, the device that he is using. It is going to be, or it has been over time, even if that now is changing slowly, it has been most commonly the factor of knowledge, the PIN or password, when the access is through browser on a PC, and it has become very common to use biometrics when it is from a mobile device. As for the second factor, that's where we introduce the notion of the authenticator. The second factor is always the factor of possession. And the factor of possession implies that we need to recognize the user in possession of a device that we consider to be the authenticator. In the case of an access through a PC, the authenticator can be a dedicated token, a dedicated hardware token, or most commonly, that's the state of how things are, the mobile device, for a matter of convenience, for a matter of cost, for a matter of many things. No, this has evolved over the years. But today, the mobile device has become the main authenticator for retail banking services. In the case that we are already using the mobile as a channel, so the mobile has this double role. It acts as the channel and it acts as the authenticator device. And in this case, using biometrics as the first factor. So for the second factor, like we said, that's when we are going to be applying the cryptography. This cryptography for many, many years, for over 20 years, the dominant protocol that has been used for cryptographic exchange in order to confirm this possession factor has been OATH. Of course, now we are switching towards the introduction of FIDO, but the principle remains essentially the same over a new protocol. Obviously, there are differences that we will be addressing. So this implementation leads to fundamentally two main user experience. In the case of mobile banking, so when we are using our mobile app in order to interact, we have applications that are going to be implementing this cryptography, perhaps through an SDK, and there is going to be a communication for the possession factor between the app through the SDK and the authentication server, whereas the first factor will be biometrics. And this leads to a very lean user experience already today. An experience that, by the way, it's even, when you get to this type of implementation, it's even phishing resistant in the sense that there is no human intervention beyond the presentation of biometrics. So the user is not exposed to its own secret for the possession factor verification. It happens completely behind the scenes. So the experience of the user is purely, I open the app, I present my biometrics, and I'm logged in, or I'm requested to verify a transaction, I present my biometrics, and the transaction is confirmed. So very sleek, as we see with FIDO. The same type of user experience we were already reaching on app with OATH, as we have reached afterwards with FIDO. When it comes to e-banking, the user experience is not as good, or it was not as good. So here we will see an improvement with FIDO. And essentially here we have to require to what was an out-of-band. So our mobile device is the authenticator, that is not our channel. We are starting on the PC. Typically we're going to be entering the username and a password, and then we will be moving, or in some cases just the username, and then we will be moving to the authenticator. So through the out-of-band, we are deriving to the mobile device, and then we are running the authentication on the mobile device purely as an authenticator. So here the user experience, it has one extra step, and obviously it involves two different devices, so there is more friction for the end user. Okay, so this is the state of things in order to see how things change with the arrival of Passkeys and what are the implications then for financial institutions. So the first thing that happens with the arrival of FIDO is that we have seen as so far we were counting on one fundamental solution for the authenticator, which was the mobile app. So the mobile app of the bank themselves became the engine for the authenticator, based on OATH or based on FIDO now. But now we introduce new authenticators, obviously, through all what we know has been happening with FIDO. So we do have the native support of FIDO, both on mobile devices and on PC platforms and browsers. So this is going to introduce a new potential user experience for e-banking. When we are now, we have the possibility to have a user experience which is as slick as it was in the case of mobile already, because we can be on our PC, we can be on our browser, and we can just be going to the login by presenting our biometrics, or we can be confirming our transaction just by presenting our biometrics, if that would be allowed as a potential user experience. Another thing is whether that is something that, from the perspective of security, is going to be acceptable. But as a potential user experience, certainly for login, that is very much the possibility. So that's a clear improvement in terms of user experience, beyond the improvements in terms of security that come with FIDO, that we have discussed so far. I won't be addressing much. So we know that with this implementation that we have on platform, there is, however, a caveat, and this caveat is that it introduces a new characteristic, which is the synchronization of passkeys. And this synchronization of these passkeys that are managed by the engines, by the FIDO engines on the operating systems of the platforms, leads to this. So if I am taking an example, and I am, let's say, an iPhone user, and I have as well a MacBook and a tablet, so following the FIDO protocol, whenever I decide to create a passkey, the key pair, private key, public key is going to be created on my device, and it's going to be registered into the authentication server, the FIDO authentication server of the relying party. The next thing that is going to happen, that is the novelty around synchronization, because as we know before, the private key used to stay, and that's what we come to call now device-bound passkeys, when they stay on the original device. But in the case of passkeys managed by the platforms, these private keys, the passkey itself, is going to be uploaded into the corresponding cloud, and from these clouds are going to be propagated into the rest of my devices pertaining to that ecosystem, in my case, Apple. So from iCloud, it will be going to my iPad and to my MacBook. Now, the implications of that. From one side, the benefits are quite clear. On one sense, for the user, it's great, because you just have to enroll once for a passkey, and you have it available on all your devices. No need to re-enroll on every single device. And also because we find a solution for one of the prevalent issues that we have had over time, which is account recovery. So when the user was losing his device that was containing his credentials for authentication, then the user was forced to go through a cumbersome, in some cases, process for requesting new credentials, et cetera, et cetera. So this problem is very much solved, thanks to synchronization. We've got a backup in the cloud. We've got other devices that may have that passkey that can help us. So the pros are very evident, but what about the constraint or the limitations or the problems that are associated with them? So some of them are, I wouldn't say emotional, but they are actually they are constraints that have to do with the fact that for a financial institution as a service provider, the credentials for authentication, they define a bind of trust between themselves and their users. That's true for every relying party, but in the case of financial institutions, even more so. And here we are introducing a third party in the management of these passkeys that is taking decisions and actions that, certain financial institutions or financial institutions may not be feeling very comfortable about. This is not a matter of trust on the level of security that is applied on the part of the platform providers or the provider of the sync fabric. It's just a matter of we're introducing here a third party, which in principle has not necessarily much to do in this relationship. Well, that is more qualitative, if you want, constraint. The second one is more concrete, and this is the fact, and here Rolf mentioned that, and there were mentions on previous session as well. It's a matter of regulation. So the fact that we have, the moment that we introduce synchronization, we are giving away with one of the main principles of validation of a factor of possession in an MFA situation, which is that the expectation is that the credential is going to be device-bound. We are creating a credential for authentication of a factor of possession of a user by creating keys that are expected to be bound to that particular device that is the possession factor. The moment that we are synchronizing these keys to other device, we are losing that notion of device binding. And that notion of device binding is explicitly mentioned as a need in some regulations, such as in PSD2 that affects to the entire European Union. Now, there are some moves that are going in another direction. When these type of things happen, there are two things that can happen, which is either there are adjustments on the technology in order to take into account these specific needs on the part of certain verticals, no? Or it can be the other way around. It can be regulations that adapt in order to, I wouldn't say necessarily lowering the bar, but yes, I mean, adjusting in order to accept this new technology. So we have the two types we have in the US, for example, we have seen presentations by NIST, and we know all about the fact that sync passkeys are being seen as a valid AL2 form of authentication. So that is one way. That is not the case today, for example, in Europe, and it's not the case in other places. So that remains a very valid problem. Besides the fact that beyond regulation, there can be the direct consideration from banks themselves, from their security posture about the fact that they expect that device binding to remain. Okay, with all that, considering the pros and the cons, what does it mean, all that? So can we or can we not use sync passkeys? Are they of use for financial institutions? Well, do they have to stick to device-bound passkeys? What is the approach? Our view of things, and that's why I say I had not seen his presentation before I saw it half an hour ago, but I am very much in sync, sorry, no pun intended, but very much in sync with what Rolf was presenting. We think that sync passkeys and device-bound passkeys, they are both part of the solution moving forward for financial institutions. In fact, despite their constraints, and we have been meeting with many companies and that have expressed their concerns about sync passkeys, the reality of it is that any authentication policy that includes, even partially, the use of passwords should, we think, consider the introduction of passkeys. The benefits on sync passkeys compared to passwords, so not to replace a full MFA, but compared to passwords are very evident. We will see more on that. But on the other side, we think that they need to be combined in order to meet regulation, in order to have this extra level of security, to ensure that we have a full MFA compliant solution. We think that they need to be combined still with the usage of device-bound passkeys that can be used through the mobile device, through the mobile app. So trying to insist on that point, as we were saying, if you use password as part of your policy, you are going to find only benefits by introducing the support of passkeys. It's not a matter of replacing them all on one day, but you can be inviting your users, and you have seen plenty of presentations these days about how to go into that direction. The more users that you will have using passkeys and the less users you will have still using passwords, that is an improvement in terms of reduction of fraud associated to phishing, clearly. And you will do that by improving at the same time, very significantly, the user experience of the user. So that's a clear win. On the other side, insisting on the benefits of passkeys, sync passkeys compared to passwords, the benefits in terms of user experience are very clear. In terms of security, you have implicit to FIDO technology on one side, the phishing resistance, I won't insist on that, and you have also the benefits related to resistant to data leaks by the fact that we are now using asymmetric keys. So what we are storing on a server is only the public keys. So we are preventing the leakage of credentials whenever there is an attack on the server side. And finally, it has been explained through many sessions. We have now proof. We were talking at the beginning, some time ago, about the benefits in terms of reductions of costs, which are very evident and have been expressed on sessions related to customer care costs, but it's much more than that. That's on the bottom line. On the top line, we have clear benefits coming from the better engagement of users by using passkeys instead of passwords. So there is no much doubt on that respect. Now, That is not enough. So we have this part here, but it needs to be complemented in order to be able to have a full solution based on FIDO technology. You would need to implement as well FIDO on your mobile application. So that's completely feasible, and that is going to allow you to use these device-bound passkeys, and that's why I say that it combines very well with what Rolf was presenting, because his presentation was going through different use cases on combining the usage of the sync passkeys with the device-bound passkeys in the case that are required for high security, as is the case of the financial institutions. So this is a perfectly valid combination. To say that there is not a need for rushing on that migration, it can be done on a phased manner. If you are satisfied as a financial institution with your current implementation of MFA on your app, or on your app as an authenticator, even if it is based on another technology, you can be starting by implementing the password replacement by sync passkeys, and combining that with your current solution that could be based on OATH technology. And over time, you can, for a matter of efficiency, you can be managing everything with the same authentication backend on FIDO. You can be doing a migration, and that is something that can be done with a very with minimal to no friction to the end users whenever you are making this rotation. That is something that we can help with. So, as a summary, if you want to implement passkeys for retail banking, you're going to need an authentication server, a FIDO certified, a FIDO compliant authentication server. With that, combined with the native clients that you have on platforms, that's all that you need, meaning you just need the authentication server in order to be able to deploy passkeys as a replacement of passwords. If you want to go beyond and you want to implement as well on your mobile apps support for FIDO, you can get an SDK that you can integrate into your mobile app that is going to provide you the capacity of issuing and managing device-bound passkeys, all of them being managed by the same authentication backend. So, as a quick takeaway, first of all, this is the theme of the conference. We are in the midst of it. We have plenty of service providers that are already making the move. We know that in the financial world, we are a little bit more conservative. There are high stakes, but we are firmly convinced that the move towards passkeys, it has plenty of benefits, and it is completely ready to be applied by financial institutions. Number two, so we recommend that you add FIDO to your authentication infrastructure. You add it. It's not a brutal replacement of one thing to the other. You add it, and you can be enabling different solutions. So you could use, we offer, and many companies can offer you a FIDO server that can fill all your needs for password replacement, and then you can get as well an SDK that you can be integrating into your mobile apps to complete the ecosystem there. And third, it is a transition, and obviously we know that there are plenty of users that are involved. You can rely on authentication specialists that have been around. We have been at Thales providing the means for evolving technology for authentication, as many other vendors have done. So you can rely on companies to ensure you that you will be able to do a smooth transition from the authentication technology that has led us for the last 20 years, based on OATH technology, to the authentication technology that is going to be driving us for the next 20 probably. That's it. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Pedro. Great presentation. We are basically at time. I don't know if this is, let's see. Well, I guess I can go ahead and ask this one. Troy Murray asks, so are you stating that if we use our own SDK, then we can control that the passkey is device-bound and not a synced passkey?
If we use our own SDK, who is we?
Maybe in a general sense.
What we are assessing is that banks can integrate into their mobile apps, so their own mobile apps, they can be integrating an SDK that provides FIDO functionality to their mobile apps. And so their mobile apps, they become the FIDO authenticator that is going to be issuing device-bound passkeys.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. That's going to do it for this session. If you would like to talk with Pedro some more, there is a speaker area over in the corner there. It's a great place to meet up as we prepare for the next session. Thank you very much.